Welcome to a brand new week of TNT as we whip around all the news in Thailand and some around Southeast Asia, when there's big stories happening. Now, two things. Firstly, thank you for those people that joined us on Saturday when we spoke to the ophthalmologist who operated on my eyes, and we had a lot of your questions. It was a very interesting session, and I'll put a link to that at the bottom of this video today if you missed it and you'd like to know a little bit more about, looking after your eyes once you're over 40. Also, it's Father's Day today in Thailand, so happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. It's a public holiday. It's actually the birthday of the former King of Thailand, King Bhumibol Adulyadej. So happy Father's Day for December the 5th here in Thailand. Let's get stuck into today's news. And we lead off with this one, and this is from Thai Wrath, and they're reporting via ASEANnow.com. And concerning the Red Bull heir, VietJet boss VietJet, who drove his Ferrari into a policeman back in 2012. Now, noting this story has been going on since 2012. A lot of twists and turns and finger pointing, and even the Prime Minister getting involved and saying he wants to get to the bottom of exactly how Boss was able to get away with not appearing in court. I think he was told to go to court 5 times and avoided it. Eventually flew out of the country in 2017 in the VietJet family's private jet. It was marooned there in Singapore and he escaped. And he's been tracked down by the media 3 or 4 times since, although the Thai police, for some reason, don't seem to be able to find out where he is. So that's the background to where we are in this story. In the latest move, the Public Prosecutors Commission say they have discharged Chainarong Sengtong Aram from the service. He's the former senior prosecutor at the Office of the Attorney General, Thailand's most senior prosecutor's office. And initial reports say that Boss had driven his luxury car, it was a silver Ferrari, at 177 kilometres per hour, but strangely, this was revised to below 80 kilometres an hour, and because of this lower speed rating, the former Office of the Attorney General Director dropped the charges and then became the latest fall guy. So speeding was just one of the charges that Boss had to face over this particular incident. Of course, the hit and run and the murder of the police officer was the main charge. The story goes on to say that Boss himself remains free despite Interpol red notices. Well, I'm not aware that those red notices still exist for Boss. I'll see if I can track down some further information about that today. The article says he's regularly seen around the world, especially at Formula One events, but appears untouchable and out of reach of the Thai police. He is the son of the heir to the Red Bull fortune. So the family is very moneyed, and pretty much the rest of the family and the whole Red Bull empire have tried to distance themselves from Boss at this stage, although he's still a guest at the Red Bull events, we note. And it says in a few years the last charges against him will have been dropped due to the statute of limitations having expired. My understanding is that there's only one particular charge, and that's the charge of murder, followed the hit and run that still exists on this case. And that's VietJet boss VietJet. To our next story now, an Israeli found with bullet magazines in a suitcase sentenced to 18 months in a Thai jail. A former border police officer from Israel says he left the bullets in his bag by accident. A Thai court has handed down an 18-month jail sentence to a former Israeli border police officer who was arrested in October at the Phuket airport with 2 bullet magazines in his suitcase. And the 29-year-old claimed that he'd left the bullets in his bag by accident when he travelled from Israel to Thailand, and the Foreign Ministry had hoped that the court would agree to deport rather than jail him given the circumstances. Apparently the man had no criminal background and had been held under house arrest since shortly after he was apprehended at Phuket airport back on October the 22nd. To our next story now, and good news if you have won the Thai lottery. Apparently you don't have to pay tax on it. So, Thai Rath reporting via AsiaNow.com, a story from Srirasha where a man only known as Kunti has scooped 144 million baht. Usually people only win about 2 or 3 million baht on a ticket, which is still a pretty good win. The money was delivered to him in cash by Kong Salak Plus. I think this must be the place he bought the tickets, and was delivered to him in cash. There he is with the cash. Apparently the winner won't have to pay tax on this, which I found interesting. I think in other countries you do have to pay tax on your lottery wins. He said he divined the numbers from joss sticks after he went to the temple to pray. He also won 96 million baht via a digital lottery. So people can, I think it's probably the most popular way these days, they can buy their tickets on an app. They don't have to go to one of these street vendors anymore to get their tickets. They can still apparently choose the numbers because people have their favourite numbers they like to choose each time. So how's he going to spend it? He said he's going to be putting it in the bank and using some to make merit. This is TNT. It's Monday. Please subscribe to the channel if you get a moment as you pass through. And we're going to be checking out a lot more stories. But with thanks to 5 Star Marine, if you'd like to take a private tour on a boat here in Phuket, which has been very busy over the weekend, turned into a bit of another long weekend. And the weather was looking foreboding. The forecast was for plenty of rain, but I think very, very little rain indeed. In fact, where I live, I don't think it rained at all during the weekend. Rain forecast again today, but I don't think we're going to see much of it. So a lot of the gloom and doom about the weather in the south of Thailand hasn't really come to pass. The TNT program, brand new week here in Thailand. My name is Tim Newton, and I thank you very much for dropping in to my living room and catching up with the latest news. We go to thainewsroom.com, and police raid a Pattaya club at 3 a.m. 16 hookah burners have been seized. Yes, and despite all the media about one particular herb being decriminalised, hookah and hookah pipes are still illegal in Thailand. The story says the raid on a Pattaya club at 3 a.m. On December the 3rd found around 150 foreign tourists drinking, dancing and smoking hookah, with 16 hookah burners seized. Just noting that these hookah pipes are particularly popular in Middle Eastern countries, and with quite a few Middle Eastern visitors at the moment, I suppose they look to enjoy their recreation time. They raided the Flex Club on Walking Street in the wee hours of December the 3rd, the wee hours. I have a lot of friends in the southern part of New Zealand that sort of use this terminology. I think it's quite popular in sort of Scotland and Ireland, the wee hours of the morning. Police have been cracking down on Pattaya's entertainment venue to ensure they shut at 2 a.m, the legal closing time. Whilst most complied with the regulations, some remained open, with the raided club being one of them. Yes, there's plenty of clubs and pubs staying open after 2 a.m, even though that's the official closing time. I know the tourism minister and other people in the business, including the entertainment venue owners, are pushing to officially keep their clubs open till 4 a.m, which really is just paperwork because, well, the fact is that most of them still do keep open till at least 4 a.m. and a lot longer past that. The ThaiNewsroom.com article says the detained was the club manager who was charged with operating a club and selling alcohol beyond the shutdown time and having smuggled hookah burners at the venue. Our next story today is, we spoke last week about a new direct flight from Bangkok into Melbourne. That's going to be around about a 9.5 hour flight. Well, this one is another direct flight that's just been announced, a new Air Canada link with Vancouver to Bangkok, and they say it's an aviation first and will boost American arrivals. Let's check out this story from ThaiExaminer.com. And the story says the flight from Vancouver to Bangkok is hailed as the first non-stop flight connection between North America and Southeast Asia. Well, maybe since COVID-19, but I'm pretty sure there's been direct flights from North America into Southeast Asia. There was a flight even from New York into Singapore. Singapore Airlines was using the Airbus A340, the four-engined Airbus. At some stage, even though they stopped doing it, it was quite an expensive flight for both the airline and the passengers. But I'm pretty sure there's been other flights. I mean, 13 hours, whilst a long time to sit in a plane, isn't the longest flights that you can take these days. I remember I used to fly, well, not often, but at least once a year or so, from Melbourne into to North America, usually to LAX and Los Angeles, and that used to be a 14 or 15-hour flight. Sometimes I think it was even 16 hours, depending on the winds and stuff. So 13 hours doesn't seem that long, but let's go more into this story. The return fare from Vancouver to Bangkok is approximately $1,650. That would be US dollars, I imagine. And it's available 4 days a week to the Canadian hub, where flyers to the United States can obtain flight clearance and then travel via Air Canada to Los Angeles, New York, and 51 other US destinations. Well done to Air Canada, opening up another direct link into Thailand from the North American countries. 1,650 baht. If that's the starting price, it's probably a bit on the high side. They're probably going to be flying either Boeing 787s or Airbus A350s. I'm not sure about the fleet of Air Canada, but anyway, 13 hours is still quite a long time to sit in a plane seat, so I hope it's comfortable. Let's go to our next story today, and from Thai PBS World, a probe ordered after 17 defence students hospitalised after harsh training. Now, from time to time, these stories emerge of cadets and defence students, in this case, being, well, let's say, mistreated by the army, a sort of hazing rituals, bullying, bastardisation, whatever you want to call it. It is quite prevalent in both the Thai police force and the army, and we regret we have to report another one of these incidents today. The commander of the 4th Army Region said that the Army had taken good care of the 17 sick students and that they're all safe now, saying that a probe into the incident has been ordered. Should have taken good care of the students when they were looking after them in the first place, rather than putting them in hospital. And down the bottom there, he says they might not be familiar with the extreme weather. He said the training regimen might have to be adjusted and the training venue should be well ventilated. And a slightly different story in the Bangkok Post. The probe demanded after 24 Army recruits suffer sunstroke. The other story saying it was 17. And we go to this story. It says an independent panel with no interference from the Army should be formed to look into the military training session after the scorching sun in Narathiwat sent 23 to hospital, 8 of them in serious condition. And this from a human rights advocate calling for an independent investigation with the Army not involved. And down the bottom there, the Southern Army was in the spotlight after the father of an injured student posted on his Facebook page showing his son in critical condition after attending the Territorial Defence Program in the Southern Province, and the boy suffered acute dehydration and damaged muscle tissue. So I think we'll probably hear more about that. But yeah, we don't want the Army to be investigating themselves. We need some sort of independent panel to investigate the Army and find out exactly why these students ended up hospital. According to the Bangkok Post, some 23 defence students. This story from Thai PBS World, and Thai VietJet are being warned by the CAAT, the Civil Aviation Authority, after 3 flight cancellations on Thursday. Now, I'll try and sort of paraphrase this because it's quite a long and involved story, but you won't really believe exactly what happened, and I think a lot of people are still shaking their head thinking, how the hell did that happen? Let's go to the story. And the Civil Aviation Authority is warning Thai VietJet Air that it could face punitive action if it doesn't comply with air service rules. And the warning comes after 3 flights on the Bangkok-Phuket route were cancelled on Thursday, causing causing inconvenience. Well, of course it would cause inconvenience. I'm not going to go through all the details about the cancellations, but sort of the fallout from those cancellations is obviously people were scrambling to try and get on other flights, and the airline was trying to get their flights back into the air. So halfway down there, during the transfer process, however, an error occurred in the seating arrangement, resulting in there being more passengers than the seats available. The plane was forced to return to the gate for a second passenger check, causing further delays lasting beyond the time for the closure of the runway for maintenance. The flight was therefore cancelled. Let's go to a slightly different version of the story, which covers another, I think, more serious aspect of this story, and this time from Phuket-go.com, and it says that more than 300 VietJet passengers were stuck in Phuket. You won't believe why. Well, the plane not only pushed back, but was taxiing towards the runway for takeoff when a cabin staff alerted the pilot that one passenger didn't have a seat, a situation in clear disregard of the general flight safety procedures. So my understanding any time I'm on a plane is the plane doesn't push back until everybody's sitting down. They've got their seatbelts on and everybody's sitting there. The only people wandering around are the cabin staff as they do the sort of the safety demonstration. I don't know how they not only pushed back, but were actually taxiing out towards the runway when somebody suddenly noticed that a man was standing there waiting to get his seat. He must have been, the plane's moving and it's taxiing, and he's thinking, are there any seats has anybody got a spare seat? Hello? And the cabin staff, what were they doing? Weren't they sort of going, who is this strange man standing around in the aisles looking for a seat? By this stage, the time was after 11:30 p.m. and airport officials imposed the curfew for flights taking off or landing at the airport between 11:30 p.m. and 7 a.m. each day. That curfew has been imposed on the airport for ongoing maintenance and is expected to stay until April next year. So, interesting information there. New to me, I didn't know that there was a curfew at the airport. But a complete schmozzle there. The airport says it wasn't their fault, that they were just imposing the curfew. And Thai VietJet said they did everything they could. They put people into accommodation. They gave them meal vouchers. They offered them discounts for another flight, blah, 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 blah. But I think the key part of that story is how in earth one passenger could be just left standing around the aisles as the plane's just about to take off. Just absurd. But yes, we'll be interested to see if there's any more fallout from that story. Anyway, the flight eventually got off at 10:30 on Friday morning. So that story from Phuket-go.com. To our next story, and from Thai PBS World, over 80% of people in Bangkok are satisfied with the new governor's performance. Gee, if I was one of the opposition parties, I'd be getting onto the phone and saying, "Hi, Chadchart, would you like to be our prime ministerial candidate?" Obviously, he's quite popular. And in a place like Bangkok, which is really the sort of the home of the Thai elite and the people that would usually vote for the conservative parties and support people like the current Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. But the story says that more than 80% of people living in Bangkok are satisfied with the performance of Governor Chadchart, according to a NIDA poll. And there's a whole lot of statistics if you want to read that Thai PBS World story. But when asked how satisfied they were with the new governor's overall performance, nearly 39% say they're very satisfied, and another 42.6% said they're satisfied because he's hard-working and determined to improve the city. So he's certainly going through a bit of a honeymoon period, and 6 months after he was elected, still very popular according to that NIDA poll. To another story, this one from Pattaya and reported in the PattayaNews.com, a Russian man wanted for murder in his homeland. He was arrested. A Russian man wanted for murder in his homeland, arrested by immigration yesterday after a request from the Russian embassy. The 51-year-old was arrested at Jomtien Beach. and he had an arrest warrant dating from October the 11th for an alleged contract murder. He'd been legally living in Thailand since 2019. Well, probably not a really good time to be shipped back to Russia and facing murder charges, but from Pattaya to Phuket. And this story says that a Filipino man arrested in Phuket for a 252-day overstay. This story reported in the PhuketExpress.com. And it says that a 55-year-old Filipino man arrested in Katu. Immigration police arrested Mr. Lito Lopez, a Filipino national, at a room in Soi Katu Waterfall, which we know here as Soi Nam Tok. And the arrest came after officers found Mr. Lopez was overstaying following tips from concerned citizens. Well, that's a bit of a strange statement. How would anybody know that he was overstaying his visa unless he was stupid enough to tell people? And down the bottom there, it looks like he arrived at Ranong back in 2020, and he had a few of the visa extensions during COVID. But then since then, he's now at 252 days of overstay. Phuket officials also believe he was illegally working in Thailand during his time here. And then he was taken to Katu police station to face overstaying charges and is waiting to be deported at his expense. So if you do overstay, you're going to have to pay for your fare back home. To another story, this time to Koh Samui, and reported in the PhuketExpress.com as well. Burglars steal property valued at 3 million baht from a Danish man and his Thai wife's house in Koh Samui. A Danish man was shocked after finding that his 3 houses that he owns with his Thai wife on Koh Samui were burgled with property valued at more than 3 million baht missing. The 3 houses located in the Mae Nam sub-district. They were completely emptied and destroyed by burglars. Some of the things missing down there, we've got a mountain bike valued at 50,000 baht. We've got 4 air conditioners valued at 80,000 baht. 4 leather sofas worth 120 baht, and 1 television worth 30,000 baht. And then additionally, the houses were destroyed, punctured ceilings and walls, trash everywhere, total damages exceeding 3 million baht. Bit of a nasty surprise for that couple coming back from their break to find their 3 houses trashed. But that ends today's program. Hopefully you're a bit more up to date with things happening around Thailand. Bit of a mixed bag of stories in today's TNT, but please subscribe to the channel on your way out, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Well, hello. Well, nice to see you. You dropped in to say hello. This is Dina the cat, who is wanting to be fed, no doubt, and I've got Dina and I've got Dusty, and you're not going to sit there and clean yourself, are you? We really don't need to see that. Okay, nice to see you. Thank you for dropping in. Lovely to see you, but we are going to put you down. Yes, there you go.